Ivy, and again, this Saturday I'm holding brief for Mr. Shegun Owolabi, who is unavoidably absent, but again, he'll be here as soon as possible. But good of you to join me, and it's a pleasure to be with you again this morning, standing in for such an incredible person as Shegun Owolabi. All right, real quick, today we're going to be looking at the need for a reliable post-flood recovery needs assessment. The flood situation in Nigeria is receding, and thankfully, many people who were before now internally displaced are going back to their homes, to their communities, and those who had to seek refuge in places that where they experience the most uncomfortable situations that perhaps they've ever experienced before. Thankfully, many of them are going back to their homes. But beyond going back to their homes, what next? That's the thought. And today we're going to be looking at the issue of a post-flood recovery needs assessment. So when the federal governments begin to, cater to the needs of these people, they need to be hitting the nail right on the head and giving the people exactly what they need, and not making assumptions, and not, generalizing their needs and trying to meet the needs on a general basis, but doing so on a community to community basis, based on, statistics, based on the actual needs of the people. Now, joining me on the show this morning is a social reformer. He's an environmental manager and a conservationist, Mr. Mimshak Uyi. Pleasure to have you on the show this morning, sir.
Morning, listeners.
Good morning. Welcome to Point Blank, and nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you once again. Your platform have been, if there is any recovery, even response measures, I think if there are organizations and agencies that need to be added, Super 93.3 FM is one of those platforms that must be commended for the work you've done, disseminating early warning information, including the recovery response and recovery measure informations and all that. Thanks for providing that opportunity to inform people, not just inform, educate, and also help them find a sugar. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that compliment also, and we're glad that we're able to do what we are able to do. Okay, real quick to the issue today. Now, we understand that NEMA South, with its zonal office in Port Harcourt, does not have a comprehensive and reliable data on the flood and its effects in the region. Tell us the progress and the work that is being done in that regard, if you are aware.
Well, it's no longer in doubt that NEMA, I also did say national, states, regional and states, including state SEMAs and LGAs, do not have any reliable or comprehensive data with regards to flooding, either pre, during, and after flooding events. It's no longer news. Why do I say so? Maybe one official may claim, oh, we have data, we have that. No. Few weeks ago, I think a week ago, the federal government has just called for data, for people to go to get data and feed the federal government and suggest ways as to how to tackle, ameliorate, better handle flooding situation. In fact, federal government is calling for comprehensive data. In this regard, post-disaster needs assessment. Federal government is asking for such data from individuals, from organizations, and from states. That is where we are now. I have done my memoranda. I have also sent to the federal government forwarding what I think is the situation and how to go about it. That in itself shows that federal government was caught napping. The states governments were caught napping. The local governments were caught napping. The communities themselves were caught napping. The agencies, intervention agencies, including the National Emergency Management Agency itself, was also caught napping. Nobody was prepared, and you cannot even be prepared. How do you prepare when you don't have a data? And that shows that there are no data, and where they exist, they are completely inadequate, and if you ask me, they are just predictions, or what people would say prophecies. When it comes, they now say, oh, it has happened. They are not reliable data, and that is why management and response of regards to disaster risk is abysmal, and the way we've witnessed.
And you know, this is a situation that is not new to Nigeria, you know. Every year at a certain time, we experience the flood, and depending on the intensity, sometimes it gets worse. And this, as we know, you know, has been the worst that we have had in many years. I'm not even aware that there, you know, has been a flood situation as bad as we've seen it happen in the year 2022. I mean, I had the opportunity of traveling to a few places to see that in 2012. And although I didn't get around this time around, from the reports that we saw, pictures, videos on social media, and ones that our reporters went on the, you know, on ground to see, it showed that it was quite terrible. But to think that, you know, the poor planning, the usual resort to knee-jerk approach. I mean, same thing goes for states and local government. None of them can give us exact figures of numbers of communities and persons by gender and by age that were affected. Number of schools, for instance, businesses, including industrial, even hospitals and farmlands, you know, farmlands by hectare, by crop type, and infrastructure. These details are the things that are supposed to even help government, you know, work, respond. Now, what do we do at this point? Because, yes, we've noted all of the errors and the mistakes, but what do we do now as situation is?
What to do now is two suggestions I'll make. The people are still reeling from the disaster, from the effect. People are still, some people have still not completely settled back to their homes. So they still will need recovery measures to be put in place, resettlement measures to be put in place. But beyond that, we need to do a rapid assessment of the 2023, this year's flood disaster. Rapid assessment, because you will need to get, if you don't do a rapid assessment, some of the data would have been lost with the receding flood. So you need a rapid assessment to get a comprehensive data of what has happened and how best to respond in event of another flooding. But that has not been done now. Federal government is only asking for such data and for suggestion from individuals, organizations, and all at this point when some data has gone. But what do we do in the federal? Where federal has started something, what happens to the states? There is nothing to show that states have any comprehensive plan to even do a post-disaster needs assessment. What was done during the when the flooding was very much at its peak was just throwing relief materials on the people, maybe throwing relief money and relief materials on the people, and then going back to their dry lands to watch. I must tell you, for instance, in Rivers State, for instance, the governor of the state was magnanimous enough to release, I think, 1 billion naira to now 6 states, initially to 4 local governments, and then it was expanded to 4. and then later 3. I mean, and then later 6. First it was Ahoda West and Oba Ibema. Later it was expanded to Ahoda East and Abua.
Yes.
And then later Emoha and then Akokotoru.
Right.
So that makes it 6 local governments. And you now ask yourself, what is this money meant for? If you share it by per local government, it's even less than 200,000, 200 million for a local government. Would that even be enough for rescue measures? Not to talk of relief materials, not to talk of recovery measures, which not before you talk of resettlement and rebuilding, rehabilitation measures. So all this is something that, like I said, just throw money on the people, just throw relief material on them, especially when they have the few that have managed to come to those places that were called IDP camps. Because I must tell you, none of those camps, except 1 or 2, qualified as an IDP camp, because most of them, 95% of them, do not have hospitals, do not have good clean drinking water, do not have facilities, especially toilet facilities to actually take care of some of the needs. It's only 1 or 2 at best. I think only 1 I can confidently say that have a makeshift health facility, and all the other ones are not qualified, do not qualify as an IDP camp, I must say. But these are where these people were thrown relief materials out. And then I must tell you also, for the committee in Rivers State, for instance, that was set up by the state government, let me say here, that committee throughout the period of that flood disaster did not assess any community in Ahoda West.
Sorry, say that. Say that again. Say that again. Sorry, yes. Say that again. The task force.
The committee did not assess Ahoda West at the peak of that flood. I must say this with all sense of authority.
You mean the task force set up by the governor?
The reason given was that those communities were completely cut off, and it was difficult for the committee to assess some of those communities, some of those areas. In fact, where the communities we are visiting were the IDP camps at Ahoda main town, and that is where they stopped. They never visited the local government headquarters. They never visited the communities. Even the Okobe IDP camp was not visited. The Okake IDP camp was not visited at the peak of the flood.
Right.
And if they don't visit, I must tell you, I must ask, how do they now get the data to be able to know the level of impact? You know, so this is what I meant by some of the data has already been lost. What we can do now is to do a rapid assessment to see the little data we can do to either get. So it is that bad, and you know, so the knee-jerk approach, or what I also say, the wait-and-see approach,
right?
You know, that even the federal government was waiting, we adopted. NEMA every year will release warning. For me, that warning is a wait-and-see approach. They will release warning. Last year, it didn't happen. They released warning, you know, but they waited to see, it didn't happen. This year, they released warning as well. They waited for it to happen, and then they didn't expect it will come. It came out at a later time, and everybody was caught napping. It's a wait-and-see approach. The state governments also adopted wait-and-see approach. The local government were adopted wait-and-see approach. For the locals, well, you could say, yeah, they are also adopted a kind of wait-and-see approach, but this is where they stay. Where do they run to? So this is the predicament, you know. So for them, it's almost like last year, some of them packed out of their communities, packed out of their homes. Eventually, the flood did not come. And so they were, you know, there were losses even when the flood was not this high last year. So this year too, they waited. The flood did not come initially. And they said, oh, let's not waste our money in packing. And unfortunately, it came. And everybody was caught pants down. So it's a sad situation. And because there are no monitoring, early flood monitoring devices, this is what happens. And so there are a lot that has to be done. Like I said, arguably the 2022 flood disaster in Nigeria tells a sad story, and it has been described as a monster flood that has led to several damages. You know, as maybe recall, the flood disaster has surpassed that of 2012, about recorded over 603 deaths,
Right.
which for me is even enough for the federal government to declare it as an emergency.
Right.
660 deaths, yet the federal government did not declare it as an emergency. Now, impacted more than 2.5 million persons,
right.
Over 200,000 houses partially and fully submerged.
Right.
More than 1.3 million have been displaced across 33 states. Only about 3 states were left untouched, you know. So it's huge, you know. So from federal to states, they never take it. They didn't take it serious.
Yeah.
When the flood comes to close to they can actually jet out to Dubai, jet out to outside to stay for the 2 weeks and come back to throw relief materials on us and all. That is the situation. Historically, the flood in Nigeria, which dates back to the 1950s, you know, are fluvial. They are also coastal and also pluvial in nature. Sorry, I'm using some technical terms now.
No, go ahead.
But it tells you that there have been a trajectory. Unfortunately, our management plans, our responses has only ended in management plans. It has not gotten up to the level of policy. When it is raised to the level of policy, then it can be legislated. Then it can be budgeted every year.
Right.
It has come to a point where it should move beyond just management plans, where it can be jettisoned. It should go up to the policy framework,
right.
And then where it can now be budgeted, where it can be legislated upon and also budgeted. Until it get to this point, we will never take it serious. We will always adopt a wait and see approach. We will always adopt a knee-jerk approach. We will always want to now hurriedly ask for 93.3 Super FM to give us airtime to come and talk about flood, to run to CSOs and NGOs and faith-based organizations to bring relief materials where we can now throw them on these victims. So it is that bad. Unfortunately as well, the National Emergency Management Agency relies only on data from NIMET. NIMET talks only about rainfall predictions. NEMA do not take serious data from NISA, Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency. NEMA do not take predictions from NISA, which actually has to do with river hydrology and the river system. They didn't take data from NISA seriously. Unfortunately, the 2023 flood, as well as this year's flood, it's not just about rainfall, it's beyond rainfall.
Okay.
Like I said, especially in Niger Delta and Orashi region in particular, the weather, the rainfall this year has been described as drought, because the rain came late, very late.
Yes.
And even when it came, it came very little.
Yes.
And so, yes. And so if you have to now say, oh, rainfall, I will tell you it is not about rainfall. More than 75% of the cost of this flood this year is about river flooding, and not just about rainfall in here, about the contributions from chiefly from the Lagdo dams and all other streams up north.
You know, but speaking of that,
River Niger and Benue.
But speaking of that, we heard from,
this is the situation.
We heard from the federal government that it was not as a result, in fact, from the Minister of Environment, that it was not as a result of the dam, but from heavy rainfalls. So this is quite contradicting.
It is an excuse. They want to. It is an excuse. The Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management wants to use to excuse itself from its failures, from inefficiencies, from ineptitude, from its irresponsibilities. recall that they also said that, in fact, Bayelsa is not even among 10
worst
most
hits.
impacted states.
Yes,
If you
yes.
now say that Bayelsa is not even among the 10 most impacted states, that means that Rivers State is not even in the list, not to talk of coming close to the 20th. So if they could say that about Bayelsa, then they could also confidently give excuse that the flooding is about rainfall.
But
which
doesn't
I
that
know,
but doesn't
like
that
I
go to
said,
show?
I'm not just an environmentalist. I'm a field person. I'm a field expert. And so I don't sit on my desktop to talk about environment. I'm always in the field. So minister is only relying on information that is given to her by those who would want to cover up their inadequacies, inefficiencies, and then that is what she's relying. I know she has apologized. The ministry has apologized to the ranking of Bayelsa. The ministry also visited Bayelsa to actually apologize to actually in that regard. That should tell you that they just sit on their desktop or in their cozy AC environment
Exactly
to give
what I
out
was going to
figures.
ask. Yeah.
And unfortunately, these are data that research institute and other persons, academics, rely upon for their academic activity. Even states and other agencies rely on these data, flawed and skewed data for their planning. And this is why we can never get it right, because the data are completely inadequate, and when they are there, they are completely false and falsified. And I think that this is, for me, it calls for concern.
But
And
don't
I
you
am
think?
happy
Yes.
that federal government, for once, is asking for data. That shows you that whatever data they are even giving should not be relied upon. Should not be relied upon.
Okay,
For
but
the
but
first
but
time,
if the
like I
federal
said,
if the federal
is
government
asking.
if
Well,
the federal government is asking, I mean, who are they asking? Is it the state or the local government? Because again, if the state and the local government
They're
do not
asking-
have, and I think that they are the ones who are supposed to go and get data because they are closer to the people. Get the data. I mean, the number of communities, farmlands, industries, people by age, by gender, and all of that. Who would the federal government ask if not the state and the local government?
Well, you know that NEMA is in every zone.
Is it?
In most zones in the country. In fact, the zonal office of NEMA South is in Rivers State. You know that, and the zonal director is our own son in Niger Delta.
Okay.
Very close to us here. So that tells you that NEMA is here. I will also say that, irrespective of the fact that their headquarters is in Rivers State, in Port Harcourt, NEMA is in every state. So they can get data.
But is NEMA, NEMA truly in every state?
That there must be the insistence that there must be a state SEMA, yes, it's good. For me, it's a management plan.
Right.
It should go beyond management plan. It should get to policy. It should get to policy framework. It should become it should be legislated upon. But however, do you know that there is a NEMA? The Bayelsa State has a NEMA, a state SEMA, a state emergency management agency. Do you also know that this state management agency Bayelsa State Management Agency was even abandoned by Bayelsa State government itself? Bayelsa State government has to set up an ad hoc flood management committee, just like the River State government also set up, abandoning the state environmental emergency management agency. The federal government also abandoned the reports, abandoned the state Bayelsa State Emergency Management Agency, and went ahead to release its own report about Bayelsa, own ranking on Bayelsa, without even considering the position of the Bayelsa State Emergency Management Agency. So the question is, what use is a state emergency management agency when the federal government do not even consider it? So now they're asking for data from you, Super FM. You know, from the programs you've done, please get us reports on what you've got to gather so far. They're asking for data from me, environmentalists like me, from individuals, from states, from SEMAs, from local governments, from CSOs, from faith-based organizations, from everybody. You know, they're asking from data and contributions on how to better manage flooding, flooding in future. You know, that is what they are asking for. You know, so poor collaboration among stakeholders is among things. Yeah, and mainstreaming of the Sendai framework action, framework of action into development policy. Sendai framework of disaster reduction 2015 to 2030 frame, you know, which is called the Sendai framework, has priority areas which are: one, understanding disaster risk, strengthening disaster risk governance to manage disaster risk, investigating disaster reduction for resilience, and enhancing disaster preparedness for effective response to build back better in recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. You know, these are guidelines. These are the framework the Sendai framework has outlined.
All right.
And it is also in this direction the federal government is also asking for help, to understand flood disaster risk in Nigeria. Federal government is asking for help to strengthen disaster risk governance to manage disaster risk in Nigeria.
Okay.
Federal government is also asking for data and help to investigate in disaster reduction for resilience and all. So these are the areas the federal government is asking for help in line with the Sendai framework of 2015 to 2030. You know, and incidentally, this framework, Sendai framework, came 3 years after the 2012 flooding. Recall in the 2012 flooding, there was a post-disaster needs assessment, I must admit. However, not all stakeholders were involved in that data, which was the reason why states like Bayelsa and Rivers State were not actually captured in total in that report. In fact, for Rivers and Bayelsa, the reason they gave for the flooding in that 2012 were just rainfall. And we all know that 2012, as well as this 2022 flood disaster,
the rains
was
were
not
so
rainfall, but river flooding.
Right.
Yeah. So these are the issues, you know. So weak institutional framework is also part of it. Poor available data for forecasting is also part of it. Poor human responsibility is also a major issue. So all this can be discussed, you know, in details, you know, as we go on. These are the challenges. But among all, the most basic and the most important is that there are actually no data. Anybody that tells you that, I know that some of my professional colleagues will say, "Oh, we've done research. Oh, there are data." No, those data, I must tell you,
are unreliable,
completely individual, unreliable and individualistic. And sometimes they are just something just to satisfy the authorities.
And nothing to go by, really.
I must tell you.
All right, well, just stay with us. Now, if you have just tuned in, it's Super 93.3 FM Port Harcourt, and it's still point blank right here this Saturday, the 26th of November. We're going to be taking your reactions, but if you have just joined us, we are looking at the post-flood recovery needs assessment, the need for a reliable post-flood recovery needs assessment, and many questions are begging for answers. A lot of them. How many IDP camps were set up and managed? Where were they, and by who? Who managed them? How many people? How many persons by gender and age are in each of these IDP camps? And these are some of the information that we are yet to receive. What relief materials were distributed to each person? to each person, and that's quite fundamental. Well, the phone lines are open right now, 08117 431-021 and 070-507-91021. Joining me over the phone, again, as I said before, is a social reformer, an environmental manager, and a conservationist, Mr. Mimshak Uyi. Okay, let me take this call. Good morning, Super FM Port Harcourt.
Good morning, my sister.
Good morning, Chief Comrade I
And
Am
good morning to Mr. Mishak. My name is Chief Comrade I Am Brave. Yes, I am listening to him very keenly. The truth is that the government of the day, both the center, the state, and the local government, they don't take this flood issue serious. And look at how devastated it is. So my appeal, like Rivers State, where the governor dole out 1 billion naira, what was his assessment? What was his assessment before bringing out 1 billion naira? 1 billion naira, which camp is he going to give and which camp will not receive? And the local government, are they really doing the needful? Look at the state government taking an ecological fund. Where did they put those ecological funds? Did they put it inside their back pocket and use it to play politics?
Okay.
And why people are submerged with water? People are crying on a daily basis, and there is no succor. There is no help anywhere. They only go there just bubble juice, just not doing anything. They did not release any help to the people. Giving in dominados, is that the help they will render to the people that have been submerged with water? What are the palliative measures that they've taken to build an estate where the people, tomorrow, if it happens, people will run and take refuge?
All right, Chief Comrade.
There is no provision of that.
Thank you so much.
That is the kind of government we have. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you so much for your contribution this morning. Okay, so we've got the text line open. It's also the WhatsApp line. You can send a WhatsApp message on 090-5948-1021. Please remember to include your name and where you are texting from. All right, it's still point blank on Super 93.3 FM Port Harcourt, and the phone lines are still open. Before I go into my next question, sir, let me take this next call. Good morning, Super FM Port Harcourt.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name?
My name is Goody, calling from Port Harcourt.
All right, Goody, go ahead.
I asked this question. What are the use of the 1 billion naira that we take? What we are they using it for? Because I know some camp we are complaining that this money cannot be feed them, they cannot eat fine. And moreover, some people with diabetes and some different kind of sickness, you cannot give them what you give to others. Maybe giving them some general food they must eat. If they don't eat, they should do anyhow they like to feed themselves. And people, we are suffering there. Then as we are talking to you now, instead of that money, at least use the money as a family. They should have the number of different families and name them and give them the money so that they will for whatever they like. And this thing have receded now, and people are going, those places are going to be fumigated. And moreover, we should have known what to do with it because some more house now have been netted because of the flood. And a lot of things they need now. If this time around, they needed even another 1 billion naira for them to take care of themselves because of this flood that happened.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Goody, for joining me. Now, I'm sure you heard what Mr. Goody said, Mr. Mimshak.
Yes, I heard him.
Okay. Now, it's a good question because now that the flood is receding and people are beginning to go back, what plans, what arrangements have the government made to ensure that their homes will be, their communities will be habitable for them? Because these are people who have lost everything, right? And then the government letting them go back to figure themselves out. Don't you think it's a bit insensitive of government?
Yes. You see, like I said, a lot of data have been lost, but with the receding flood. But we can still get more data. If the planning and the management was properly done, then you would have gotten, at least for those who managed to get to the IDP, to the camps, the said camps, you would have been able to get their data. How many are they, by gender, by age, just like you read out, and then as per their family, how many are they in their family? What kind of farm do they have? What are the acres? What is the size of their farms they have that was destroyed by the flood? At least you can get good data from them. Now, I know that so that as they are going back, you know the kind of home they are going back to.
Yeah.
If it is a mud house, a thatch house, what materials would they require to build back better? To assist them go back. What will be for those who have boreholes? How do they get back? How do they get drinking water? How do they recover their boreholes, their septic tank, and a whole lot? All has gone. So all this ought to have been mapped out, and then before as they are going back, you now know the intervention you are going to you follow them
right.
up with. Now, in terms of even going back to the farm, what is the crop they planted? If it is cassava, for instance, how many stems of cassava would require for, let's say, 100 by 100 plot of land, for instance? I know that most of them have more than about at least nobody farms just one plot of land in that fashion. That's too too small. So how many cassava stems, will plant be able to cover a plot of land, for instance? And for one person, how many bundles will one person require? Now that is for cassava stem. If you talk about, because our people we are the highest producers of banana in my side, but because of this flood, the bananas are all gone. How many suckers of banana will each person require? How many acres do they have? How many suckers of banana suckers will they require to plant? And how much is each? So these are things you will need, so that as they are going back not just to rebuild their homes and then rebuild. They are also going back to replant. Now, all seedlings are gone. For yams, what number of seedlings do they require to plant a 100 by 100 or a plot of land? A plot of land. How many seedlings of yam do they require? How many persons would require it? And all that, so that you can get, because there are no seedlings anymore, because most of the yams were harvested premature, and so you can't even, some of those ones cannot even be kept back as for seedlings for replanting. They are all gone. The cassava stems are all rotten. They are all gone because there was no place to even store them, to keep back, to preserve them, and all that. So these are things you need to, these are data you will need. Not to talk about the schools. Ivy, do you know that all schools in Orashi were shut down?
Yes, I'm aware.
Within the flooding period. And there was no schooling all that period. In fact, in some of the schools were even used as IDP camps.
Right.
And so there were no schooling. The Ministry of the Education, I consistently called on the Ministry of Education to declare a flood school break,
right?
Which the Ministry of Education never did. Now the schools are dried out. You expect the children to go back
and continue from where exactly?
And continue from where?
From where?
So these people, this critical sector, these pupils were completely cut off.
And
so the effect is still there. The ministry do not even have any plan, even as I speak.
Life has gone on.
Life
has gone on, for government.
I reached out to an aide. I'm using this medium to say it on air. I reached out to an aide of the Ministry of Education to call on his boss, to declare a flood school break. They never did. I made a post on Facebook asking the Rivers State government and if indeed the Ministry of Education to declare a flood school break in Orashi region. They never did. I have also asked the Rivers State Rivers State government, just as I'm going to also use this medium, to call for a supplementary budget, to tackle the peculiar situation in Ahoda West, in Orashi region. They never did. I looked at the budget that was just presented recently. No special provision was made for the flooding challenge, the post-disaster needs, as we said. Fortunately for us, this budget was presented, at least a little bit after the thick of the flood. When, in fact, if the effect was there, no post-disaster needs assessment was captured in that flood. That shows that it was just that 1 billion that was thrown at us. Though the management committee has not actually, in fact, if they want, they should come out to say they have done it, because they have not gone to any community as we speak to do an assessment, a needs assessment of the flood. They have not gone. They have not gone. And I wonder when they will go to do that needs assessment. If the fund is still there, then they have to go and do a needs assessment. But I also say that that fund is completely inadequate, for a post-disaster needs, So and this is it.
All right.
Data is important, and data is life. Once you don't have data, and it means you can't even manage anything, and it will still continue. God forbid, I'm mentioning the name of the Almighty on air this way. But it's a bit serious for me, which is why I have to mention the name of the Almighty like that. Forbid that it happens next year, we will still be caught napping. It will all still be the wait-and-see approach.
It is sad. It is sad, but true.
Because there are no data and there is nothing. If you don't have data, then it means that their response and management will also be shambolic.
And there is no real proof.
603 persons dead. Yeah.
And there's no real sign to show that government wants to get data, that government is prepared and is willing to go all out for data.
Yes, the National Management Zonal Office of the National Emergency Management Agency claimed that they have data, and I laugh. If you are going for a needs assessment in community, it's not hidden. It's not hidden. I also have from a grapevine that NEMA, NEMA office in River State, said that they are angry, they are grieved against the River State government for not carrying them along in the relief
the 1 billion naira
relief that was released by the state. And I asked myself, NEMA is federal. If the state has refused to set up a state SEMA and on its own has set up an ad hoc arrangement to manage the flood situation, do you now say, oh, you want to benefit, you want to dip your hand from that cost? What happens to the federal efforts?
That the state has no access
NEMA in NEMA zonal office is aggrieved, is angry with the River State government, and has said that they are not going to speak about the flood rivers in Orashi, which is why NEMA will not agree to grant interview and talk about the flood in Orashi, because to them, River State government refused to carry them along. I wonder why I'm making this allegation on air. Let them refute it. That is the situation, and that is why they have kept mute to this date. And I wonder and I ask, why do you now wait for the state government to fund you, Federal National Emergency Management Agency, and you are waiting for the state to fund you when the state is not even.
Hello. Oh, we're experiencing a bit of a network challenge right now, but it's still point blank on Super 93.3 FM Port Harcourt. And for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to take your reactions. 0705 079 1021 and 0705 and 08117431 Good morning, Super FM. All right, I lost that call, but do well to call me back. Today we have been looking at the need for a very reliable needs assessment, post-flood recovery needs assessment. And we are looking at the issue of, non-involvement of experienced humanitarians, emergency response organizations, where we're looking at the poor or the lack of synergy between different tiers of government, their ministries and agencies that has made it difficult for the sharing of timely, verifiable information, amongst other things. And quite a number of questions, begging to be answered. We're looking at those who were stranded in their communities that didn't get any visit from government, both at the federal and the state level, to even receive relief in the first place. If they were not visited in the first place, no one even can take, no one knows the data, number of people stranded in those communities, what has been lost, number of houses submerged. No one has that information. All right, good morning, Super FM Port Harcourt. Welcome.
Good morning, Obi.
Good morning.
Yeah, Chief Comrade, I am brief.
All right, so go ahead real quick.
10 seconds. Let me also add, like the local government, what should be their action when it comes to the flood? That is number one. Now, number two, the state government, did they carry out environmental impact assessment on the flood-prone areas? And also, let us look at it. The federal government, what are their budgets of building a dam and also dredge most of this northern area that also is being affected, and this Orachi area that is being affected, make some dredging so that this issue will not arise the second time. That's my take. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Chief Comrade Iron Braids. And now he asked a question about the budgets, and I'm sure you want to respond to that. The plans, financial.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, you don't even need any response from me to actually be able to know that there are no plans, there are no budgets. Like I said, like you mentioned, is a knee-jerk approach, is a wait-and-see approach. Even when they were waiting, there was no plan. I mean, there is nothing. There was nothing concrete. So it was just a reactionary measures that you see. So, but I must say that I want to believe that I want to be challenged. I want to be corrected. The state, as a state, has not carried out any needs assessment up to this moment. But I know that the local government, particularly Ahoda West, has a lot of data. But who would they share this data with is a question. Because NEMA, South Zone, has refused, said they are not going to talk with the Rivers State government, with the Rivers State. So I doubt if NEMA will even get any, will even want to accept any data from Ahoda West. I'm talking about Ahoda West because, not just because I'm from Ahoda West, because Ahoda West was the hardest hit, and I have been on this. I was on the trail of the local government chairman, putting him on his toe, and I must commend him that he did very well. I must commend him for, as a local government, he performed beyond my expectation. He did a human job. I must commend him. I'm sure if data are asked from him, I'm sure the Ahoda West has even more data than the state will have. I don't. But that will not cover for Ahoda Mandoni. That will not cover for
Ahoda East.
That will not also cover for Ahoda East. And then
Emoha and Akokotoro.
Emoha and Akokotoro. So, but I must say that gaps in the flood disaster management is as a result of, like I said earlier, poor collaboration among stakeholders, non-mainstreaming of the Sendai framework action into developmental policies. Poor availability of data for hazard forecasting. IB, let me tell you, there is an early flood warning disaster system at close to my community. I call that my community, at Odiobo near Indiama. That system was installed, I think, in 2018.
Right.
That year, that facility was even overtaken by flood. That facility collapsed since that 2018 till date. So I wonder what data that will be emanating from that will be emanating from that system to the National Archive. And this is one of the systems the federal government, especially NEMA and NISA and NIMED, are relying upon for their flood forecast. And I must tell you, when a data comes from such a system that has already broken down, you know that data cannot be relied upon, and that data is false, because they will only be giving those data just to show that they are working when they are not working. The facility is there. Everybody can walk up to Ojobo now, which is close to Ndiama, and see that facility is completely collapsed. So I wonder what if they say that there are facilities, that facility is gone, is dead, is dilapidated, I must say. So non-mainstreaming of disaster management into development policy, and then poor emergency planning and weak institutional framework are some of the challenges. So how do we go about this? I know that I don't know how much time I still have.
We have less than 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Less than 3 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. So there are arrays of prevention modalities that can actually be lashed upon. We need proper risk knowledge, and such risk knowledge can only come from quality, reliable, time on the spot, in situ data. Early warning and monitoring system. Not just warning that NEMA gives every year. Not you and I know that the flood does not come every year.
Yes.
So they should go beyond just sitting behind their keyboard, their laptop, and issue warnings without knowing the magnitude, without knowing the inches and the inches and all that.
So
and
the closest specifics.
So we need to the specifics without giving specifics. We need to know, So not just warning you, just like a prophet. You say I predict, and when it comes, he shout, "Oh, hallelujah!" Or when it doesn't come, he say, "Oh, event has overtaken it. It has been taken it in bed." That is what NEMA is doing, which is why we are caught napping. So they should go give us real-time warning. And then monitor, not just one, monitor. Right. Go to the field, go to those areas and see. Monitor, disseminate these warnings and monitoring data you have. Disseminate it and communicate appropriately. There is weather forecast. Super 93.3 has a weather forecast every day. So why not give also flood forecast and disaster forecast? Give it as a forecast. Timely. Timeous, and value. And then this response capabilities. We didn't see the Red Cross. We didn't see the CSO. We didn't see Super FM. Well, you tried. You are there. At least some of your persons also visited some of the camps, and we are always in your studios are always open to give information, disseminate information. But we need people on the spot coverage.
Right.
So these are some of the things. The communities are suffering as I speak. They are going back to their ruins. They are going back to nothing. They are going back to despondency. They are going back to nothing, absolutely nothing, because they don't even have no seedlings to replant.
All right, sir.
No seedlings to replant. Nothing. That is the situation.
It's rather unfortunate.
Where to stay.
Anyways, unfortunately, we don't have all the time to continue with this conversation. But thank you very much. You have done justice, and I do hope that soon enough, we'll have cause to invite you again and elaborate more, and also look at other issues that may become pressing as the days unfold.
One thing I just want to appeal to the federal government, and especially to the state, is to follow the Sendai framework of action, which require the strengthening of disaster risk governance and manage disaster. Strong legislation that require each state of Nigeria to produce a flood hazard risk map.
All right.
I'm recommending it for River State. If the federal government cannot do it, please, River State, do it for us.
All right.
Please, otherwise, do it for us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much, Mr. Memshak Oyi, for your time.
Thank you for having me, and I must say that you have been the most. If I should give you what do you call it, response personality of the year, I must say Super FM deserve it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much.
You saved lives.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for the compliment. All right, and that's the much we can take for this particular segment of Point Blank, but we'll continue after the short break. Do stay with us. You just listened to that interview with a social reformer, environmental manager, and conservationist, Mr. Memshak Oyi, speaking about the need for reliable post-flood needs assessment, evaluation, an assessment, basically. And that's what we've looked at. We've also pointed out a few issues that in areas that the government has failed, to live up to its responsibility, and just generally how things have unfolded and what needs to be done going forward for those who are victims of the last flooding. And then we pray that, coming in the years to come and the floods to come, that the government shows and does things a bit different. Really, this is our hope. Anyway, stay with me. My name is Obi Ivy, and I will be back after this break. Don't go anywhere.
Music for the whole family. Talk for the whole family. Entertainment for the whole family.
I don't know. This place is crack-a-lackin'.
This is Super FM.
Oh, I can hang here. I can hang here.
Nigeria's #1 family lifestyle talk and urban radio station.
I love this radio station. Keep listening to Super FM.
Oh yes, our people talk say, na delay, they make fowl no fit fly like other bird in meat. Oh yeah now, rush now, carry your jingle, announcement, religious program, political program plus many more. Go meet your target audience as if we say Super 93.3 FM Port Harcourt don't open for business. Yes, so our commercial office there for downtown for 56 Agri Road by Sokoto Junction, Port Harcourt. As a big man concern, call our marketing sales rep on 0915 729 0709 0915 729 0709. Super 93.3 FM Port Harcourt. Your satisfaction, our guarantee.
All right, welcome back to Point Blank on Super 93.3 FM Port Harcourt. My name is Obi Ivy. And again, just to let you know that I'm holding brief for Mr. Segun Owolabi, who is, of course, your exceptional host on this particular platform. Our next guest on the program today is a representative of a gender-based organization, an organization that strives to, support women, speak for women, especially those whose voices are being stifled in very bad and unhealthy and, of course, quite dangerous relationships. I have joining me this morning the Publicity Secretary of FIDA Nigeria, Rivers State chapter. That FIDA is the Federation of International Women Lawyers, and her name is Sophia Afolayan Esquire. Good to have you on the program, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yes, the pleasure is ours. So tell us about the event that you have put together
Well, every year, all across the world and across the nation, we mark this day, which is the 16 days of activism, which is a period of time to advocate and do more sensitization and awareness against the ills and evils of gender-based violence and why it has to be felt in society. Right, for this year, we have the theme of this year's celebration as Unite, and the FIDA Rivers, just as other organizations, and for what we stand for, we are on our toes and we are set to go around advocating and making a statement for these 16 days of activism. So that's part of our lineup of activities for the program for this month.